On Tuesday, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan announced that the U.S. will re-designate Yemen's Houthi rebels as global terrorists. This decision comes in response to the group's attacks on commercial shipping in the Red Sea, which has been attributed to their backing by Iran. As a result of this designation, U.S. financial institutions will freeze Houthi funds, and its members will be prohibited from entering the U.S. Despite the news, the rebels have vowed to continue their attacks even after the designation takes effect in 30 days. This move reverses Secretary of State Antony Blinken's decision in 2021 to remove the Houthis from the U.S. specially designated global terrorist list. In a statement, Sullivan stated that the recent Houthi attacks fit the textbook definition of terrorism, as they have endangered U.S. personnel and disrupted global trade operations. However, he added that if the Houthis cease their attacks in the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden, the designation will be re-evaluated. During the final days of the Trump administration, officials imposed the terrorism-related designations despite concerns from the UN and aid groups about the impact on Yemen's already dire humanitarian situation. However, shortly after President Joe Biden's inauguration, Blinken reversed this decision, citing the urgent need to address the humanitarian crisis in the country. Ahead of the announcement, senior administration officials defended the decision to reinstate the global terrorist designation while maintaining that the Foreign Terrorist Organization (FTO) designation was necessary to ensure the continued flow of aid into Yemen. They recognized the Houthis attacks on commercial shipping as unacceptable but highlighted that exemptions and licenses would be implemented to safeguard humanitarian aid. The Houthis began attacking merchant vessels in response to Israel's military operation in Gaza, and their attacks on commercial tankers passing through the Red Sea have since escalated. In response, the US and UK launched airstrikes against numerous Houthi targets in January, supported by other countries. The new terrorist designation does not indicate a lack of confidence in the effectiveness of the air campaign, according to Biden administration officials, who view the sanctions as part of a broader effort to address the Houthi attacks. Yemen has been ravaged by a civil war that intensified in 2015 when the Houthis seized control of significant portions of the country, leading to intervention from a Saudi-led coalition. This conflict has resulted in a staggering death toll, with more than 160,000 lives lost, and has triggered a severe humanitarian crisis, leaving 21 million Yemeni people, two-thirds of the population, in need of assistance. On a freezing, snowy day in Concord, a multitude of people clad in Nikki Haley pins and T-shirts gathered in the iconic red booths at the renowned Red Arrow Diner in New Hampshire. They eagerly awaited a surprise visit from Ms. Haley, who had experienced a disappointing night, finishing in third place behind Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and former President Donald Trump in the Iowa caucuses, where Trump claimed a landslide victory. The Iowa caucuses presented an opportunity for the former United Nations ambassador to gain much-needed momentum, but Trump's resounding triumph solidified his position as the clear frontrunner for the Republican presidential nomination. However, just a day later, Ms. Haley proclaimed that she was still in the race. Speaking to voters at the Concord Diner, she asserted, "There are only two serious candidates. It's about the difference between Trump and me." The upcoming New Hampshire primary on January 23, the second contest in a series of state-by-state races, will serve as the next test for the candidates. Experts believe it may be Ms. Haley's best, and possibly last, opportunity to emerge as the alternative to Mr. Trump. Ms. Haley has dedicated substantial time to campaigning in New Hampshire, and recent polls in the state indicate a much closer race. She has also garnered crucial endorsements from New Hampshire's Republican Governor, Chris Sununu, and numerous local officials. In contrast, Mr. DeSantis focused his efforts on Iowa, campaigning in all 99 counties and spending millions on advertising. However, he is polling in the single digits in New Hampshire. "He has a robotic personality that does not resonate with voters," commented Sean Westwood, a government professor at Dartmouth College. Despite having most of his attention focused on Iowa, he still struggled to win over Haley. Nevertheless, Ms. Haley faces a formidable adversary in the former president, who retains a firm hold on the National Republican Party and maintains a loyal support base in rural parts of the state. "Trump commands the Republican Party," observed Mr. Westwood. "He clearly dominated in Iowa against DeSantis and Haley, and he will likely do the same in New Hampshire." However, Ms. Haley is hoping for an unexpected victory next week, and the unique composition of New Hampshire's electorate may assist her in cutting into Mr. Trump's lead. Like Iowa, New Hampshire is predominantly white and rural compared to the average U.S. state. Nonetheless, it is distinct due to its swing state status in New England, boasting a Republican governor alongside a Democratic congressional delegation. Additionally, almost 40% of its electorate comprises independent voters who can choose whether to participate in the Republican primary. Historically, we will look at Iowa and do the opposite, said Matthew Bartlett, a Republican strategist in the state. If everybody expects us to zig, sometimes we will zag. There's always a surprise in New Hampshire. For instance, after losing the Iowa caucuses in 2016, Mr. Trump triumphed in New Hampshire's Republican primary, propelling him towards victory as the Republican nominee later that year. This demonstrated Mr. Trump's appeal to Granite State voters, even though he ultimately lost the state in both the 2016 and 2020 general elections. Richard Terrell, a 75-year-old Concord resident, believed that Mr. Trump's record as president would help secure his victory in the state's primary. He's already proved himself through one administration, he asserted. I like everything he did. On Tuesday evening, hordes of the former president's supporters braved the cold and snow, standing in line for hours before he spoke in Atkinson, New Hampshire. It was his second destination of the day, following his attendance at his civil defamation damages trial in a Manhattan courthouse. He is being sued by writer E. Jean Carroll, who has accused him of raping her decades ago. Introduced at the New Hampshire event by Vivek Ramaswamy, who withdrew from the race a mere day before, Mr. Trump wasted no time in launching an attack on Ms. Haley. We're still leading her by a lot, he proclaimed. She's not a particularly great candidate. However, inside the Red Arrow Concord Diner on Tuesday morning, New Hampshire Senator Bill Gannon was utterly smitten by Ms. Haley. Enjoying breakfast alongside State Representative Mike Moffett, the two Republicans expressed admiration for her foreign policy experience and knowledge of New Hampshire issues. She's someone my kids could look up to, declared Mr. Gannon. She's the whole package. She has a vision for the future. To outshine Mr. Trump in New Hampshire, Ms. Haley will also need to win over a portion of these independent voters. Ginny, an independent from Manchester who chose to withhold her last name for privacy reasons, disclosed that she had voted for Republican candidates in T. He passed but disliked any of the 2024 presidential options, including Ms. Haley. The current Republican platform is a disaster for democracy, she stated, expressing concerns about Mr. Trump facing numerous criminal charges in federal and state cases. Although Ron DeSantis remains firmly in the race, Ms. Haley aims to frame the contest as a choice between her and the former president. Trump is the one I want, Ms. Haley informed reporters in Concord as she revealed she would only participate in this week's Republican debate in the state if Mr. Trump also attended. As he has not yet participated in any debates, engaging in a face-off with Ms. Haley at this stage would likely offer minimal gains for him. Time is running out for Ms. Haley to make her case. If she fails to succeed in New Hampshire, experts believe there is little hope for her in the subsequent primary in her home state of South Carolina, where polling indicates Mr. Trump is in the lead. If Donald Trump dominates in Iowa and New Hampshire, it's difficult to see him losing any other contests moving forward, remarked Mr. Bartlett. Then the question is, do people stay in this race and why? The starting line could be the finish line here, he concluded. Embracing voters and shaking hands at the Concord Diner on Tuesday, Ms. Haley appeared to be aware of the diminishing opportunities. All eyes are on us now, she acknowledged. Everyone's looking at New Hampshire.